I think we've got the second half of a fascinating, wonderful program today. I had a different introduction in mind, but we heard a lot about experiences these folks went through. But what we didn't hear about is the experiences they had as prisoners. And they were there, they weren't guilty, they knew it, but they still went through all the things that people who were guilty went through. We've got a panel today of folks that know a lot about that and are helping people in our community move on. So let me do the introduction. So there's a great uplifting remarks we heard before, but this next group of speakers will describe the equally uplifting experience of individuals who are guilty of crimes and spend an extended period in prison and then return to our community. A Brighter Way empowers these individuals to achieve purpose-filled lives with the guidance of supportive and experienced team. Allan Newman is the chair of A Brighter Way. Al is a serial entrepreneur who created over a dozen companies across a range of businesses. He's vice president of Recycling Ann Arbor, secretary of Huron Waterloo Pathway Initiative, and on the board of the Avalon Housing. He is deeply committed to improving the correction system locally and in the state. He is co-facilitator of the Washtenaw County Reentry Committee and co-chair of the Michigan Department of Corrections Program on Offender Success, and that's in Region 9. Adam Grant is ABW's executive director. This is Adam here. Adam's path to ABW starts with the history of over 3 decades of incarceration, including 27 straight years in prison for robbery he committed at the age of 22. He has dedicated himself to working for returning citizens at a variety of organizations. Through this process, he has personally learned that current recidivism rates can be lowered, and if we invest in these returning citizens, there will be a brighter way for all of us. Finally, Johnny Walker is ABW's community engagement specialist. Johnny was raised in northwest side of Detroit. A combination of traumatic life experiences and drug and alcohol misuse led to a life in prison. By age 21, he was imprisoned for armed robbery. Later, he was convicted for a crime while incarcerated and received a second-degree life sentence. In total, Johnny spent 46 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections. ABW community engagement. Johnny is ABW's community engagement specialist. He is energized and fulfilled by helping other returning citizens make a life here and to make a positive contribution to our community. So I welcome, please, our guests from A Brighter Way.
Well, thank you, Pat, for the opportunity to talk about A Brighter Way. I am on the board of Avalon Housing, and one of the tenants there had spent 13 years in prison, and with a fellow person who had returned from prison, they had a great idea about how to help people return from incarceration. My background is I'm an entrepreneur, and I know how you start and found and grow organizations. So I volunteered to be the board chair, and I knew absolutely nothing about criminal justice. And one of the first things I did is I went into a prison to recruit a young man to our program. I knew he had spent 2 to 4 years, and he had committed a nonviolent crime. This was the conversation. Is somebody picking you up at the prison? No, sir. Do you have transportation? No, sir. Do you have a place to live? No, sir. Do you have a job prospect? No, sir. Do you have clothes? No, sir. What do you expect to happen? I then went and got on the Michigan Department of Corrections organization that helps people return from incarceration. It's called Offender Success. There I learned that Washtenaw County had the worst recidivism rate in the state. Our recidivism rate was 50% higher than the state average, and nobody knew it, and nobody was doing anything about it. The sheriff didn't know it, the county commissioners didn't know it, the council people didn't know it, and the nonprofits didn't know it. We have led to organizing the county. We now have quite an effective reentry committee that is coordinated and effective. I'd now like to show you a short video.
Man.
It's Gibson. This song is for the ones who came home without a welcome. Wasn't nobody friendly. They treat you like a felon. You went and did your time and you say you learned your lesson. Trying to figure life out. Seem like nobody is helping. This is for the person who came home and started from the bottom. Just know you ain't alone. Cause iron sharpens iron. We figured if we come together, we could solve the problem. Cause reentry is hard. It's time to talk about it. We all burn some bridges. We here to help rebuild some. We've been in your shoes, no laces, just Velcro. Praying for a maybe, but their response is hell no. You left the work alone, it's looking like you need to sell some more. I hear your struggle and your pain. Tenfold, what's the rehabilitation that they gave you been for? If you can't get a fair shot, tell me what I'm here for. Parole is just a game, basketball without the free. I know it's hard, but you gotta know you're worth it. If you're still alive, then you gotta have a purpose. We can change the world, unity is what's gonna save us. There's a brighter way, there's a brighter way. We could build a bridge, we just gotta see the vision. We gon' keep beating on these doors till they listen. When we stand together, that's when they gon' pay attention. Let me hear you say, there's a brighter way, yeah.
The hardest part is gone. You made it out them walls. Now you back home. Let's crawl before you walk. One day at a time, it don't happen overnight. Everybody shining, be the beacon to their light. Be the reason that she smile, be the reason that she proud. I'm living for my mom, I done found my purpose now. Show her life is different, show her life above the clouds. I made it out that cell and made an impact on my town. I'm leading by example, it's your time to do the same. If you gon' teach a youth, show them how to stay away from the streets and the game, man, choose another lane. It's a lot on your shoulders, you was built for this rain.
I know it's hard, but you gotta know you're worth it. If you're still alive, then you gotta have a purpose. We can change the world, unity is what's gonna save us. There's a brighter way, there's a brighter way. We could build a bridge, we just gotta see the vision. We gon' keep beating on these doors till they listen. When we stand together, that's when they gon' pay attention. Let me hear you say, there's a brighter way, yeah. It's Gibson, and also the Don.
That was written, performed, and produced by people with lived experience. So ABW is embraced by people returning from incarceration. I asked Johnny, and Johnny spent 46 years and 11 days in prison. I asked him why. He said, people don't understand how violent prisons are. They don't understand the lack of rehabilitation, the horrific health care, the disgusting food, the boredom. They hate the system. They hate the man. And then when they walk in the door of a brighter way, it's welcome home. We have 9 employees, all with lived experience, that were incarcerated for 134 years. They know what it takes. They've lived it, and they've been trained on trauma-informed care. I could talk for a long time, but you really want to hear from. So A Brighter Way needed to hire a new executive director. And we have a very distinguished board, and we do what boards do. We listed our characteristics, had led an organization, done fundraising. And then I meet Adam Grant. Adam doesn't meet any of them, except one that he had overachieved on.
That's true.
He had done 27 straight years and was still on probation. And I go back to the board and said, I don't know how to explain this, but you should talk to him. What I've come to realize, we didn't know what it took. We had never been incarcerated. We really did, we had people on city councils and started substance abuse agencies and Peace Neighborhood Center, but we didn't know. Adam is enormously capable. He's a compassionate leader, and you're about to learn he's a real communicator.
I also cry a lot.
He hadn't heard that, by the way.
No. I knew about the not checking the boxes, and I want to thank you and Roddy, because you have to be able to look beyond, and I think that's one of the things we do. Trauma-informed is one thing. You have to be able to look to what exists within. One of the things that attracted me to A Brighter Way was the name. It's really easy to be corny with A Brighter Way. We need all of your light to create a brighter way. There's a brighter way within all of us. It's pretty simple. It's easy to do. It's true. I think they came to it, though, because they said there was a better way, and a better way was probably already taken. So I'll try not to cry too much, but I do because this matters. So that video. All those Lions jerseys with those numbers, it's how many years they served. We don't wear other people's numbers. We don't wear ours because we're proud. We wear ours because we overcame, and we're proud of what we overcame. That's why I've got this number on my necklace. I did 27 years for a bank robbery. I wasn't going to trial as the other guy was as the police testifying against somebody, but I did rob a bank. So one of the things that I want you to think about is I want you to think about, today we're going to explore a question that changes everything about how we think about reentry and second chances. What you'll hear today isn't a theory. It's lived experience, proven results, and a roadmap for real transformation. So the question that changes everything, before we dive in, I want you to consider, are we moving people forward or are we moving them backward? Are we offering a left turn towards an isolation or a right turn towards community? Every policy, every program, every interaction with returning citizens answers this question. Today we'll show you what happens when we consistently choose forward and right. Let me start with my own story because it illustrates exactly what we're up against. Matter of fact, let me go back to my jersey. That jersey is not quite as good as ours, but I'll take it. So really quickly, I'm not going to go too far into my story other than the fact that 30 years ago, well, actually 32 years ago now, I stood in front of a judge who called me a terrorist. And I remember arguing in my own mind that he didn't know what he was talking about. Until I actually started to realize that he was right. It was one of the things that actually changed my life. I'd spent 30 years incarcerated since then. When I was released, I was rejected 30 times for employment. Ask Al. I interview well. Almost every single one of them offered me the job and then rescinded it when they actually realized when I said I spent 27 years in the Department of Corrections, I didn't mean I worked there. So 30 times someone looked at my record and decided I wasn't worth the risk. Thankfully, I knew better. But transformation doesn't happen despite rejection. Sometimes it happens because of it. Each no clarified my purpose. I often joke that I interviewed 3 times for a position at Blarney Castle Petroleum. And they would not hire me because they couldn't trust me with $50 in the till. And today, I'm grateful that Blarney Castle Petroleum didn't hire me because I'd have been the best damn general manager that they ever had, because I throw myself into what I do. And I would have found ways to be able to do this work. The reality for hundreds of thousands of returning citizens is similar to mine. The question is, do we keep perpetuating this cycle, or do we create a different path? I'm standing here today as executive director, not because the system worked, but because a few people chose to see my potential instead of just my past. Everybody doesn't get in front of the board chair. Everybody doesn't get in front of the CEO at Home a New Vision. Everybody doesn't get in front of the owner of Parkside Family Counseling. Those are the 3 main jobs I've had since I came home, and every single time it required me getting in front of the person that could make the call. Everybody can't get that. So the momentum of change. This is where things start to change, and this is what we know works with people. If you start investing with people, you create the momentum of change. From rejection to leadership. My journey from rejected applicant to executive director wasn't about credentials or connections, as Al made so clear. It was about finding advocates who believed and building credibility through authenticity. Let me pull this back a little bit too. I was released January 8th of 2020. Does everybody remember what happened in March? Remember, I went in 1993. The internet launched in 1994. Cell phones were still the brick. And I came home and everything was taking place on Zoom. But a lot of times it's how you approach these things that decides what you do with them. Instead of it being a disadvantage, I had an advantage. While everybody was out here complaining about being locked down, no, piece of cake. Told my wife one day, you're the best bunkie I have ever had. And I got a refrigerator here too. What are they talking about? You know? So the power of belief. Someone saw past the 30 rejections and recognized that lived experience isn't a liability, it's an asset. Authenticity became my currency. I didn't pretend to be somebody I wasn't. I led with my story, my scars, and my commitment to change. And here's what's beautiful. The momentum doesn't stop with one person. It creates a wave that lifts entire communities. The work we do at A Brighter Way is not just with returned citizens. One of the things that I recently realized when I went to a restorative justice summit that we had just on Thursday and Friday was the idea that this is not reentry work. I didn't go to space. I'm not reentering the atmosphere. I was never gone out of the community. There were people that were always here that carried me with them every single day. I've been a part of this community. I owe something to the community. And people who feel apart from something as opposed to a part of something are more likely to do damage. So I think what we do at A Brighter Way, and we do so well, is we embrace you. You come through the door, you got music like that playing in the background, you got people dressed however they come, everybody's got something different going on. I had a funder one day said, no, he's not lying. I've never had a meeting with Lil Wayne playing in the background. And we did. Because it's authentic, because it's real, because people need that momentum for change when they come out. The first thing that you hear most of the time when you are released from prison is, don't come back. I don't know about you, but I was always taught that you can't frame a goal in the negative. Recidivism is about not committing another crime and not going back to prison. So I'm not charting recidivism anymore. Al doesn't even know this yet as the board chair. I'm not doing it anymore. What we're charting is a successful community integration. It's framed in the positive, and currently we have a 97% success rate with people reintegrating back into the community. So the momentum of change is an actual really important factor. You're also getting firsthand experience because when we launch our new website, you will also see what our new mission is, because our mission is expanded. Our mission is very inclusive. A Brighter Way partners with formerly incarcerated individuals and their families to co-create lives of purpose, stability, and connection. Notice that word, co-create. This isn't something we do to people or for people. It's something we do with them. Now, some people respond really well to that. Johnny may talk at some point in time about some of the ones that necessarily don't, because people have been accustomed to, they come in, what can you do for me? Whatever you're willing to do with me. We're more of a mutual aid society than we are a service provider because we work with one another. We've also developed a social enterprise. Through Home Crew, our social enterprise, we're proving that formerly incarcerated individuals don't just need jobs, they excel when given real opportunity, fair wages, and dignity. Our core values, everything we do is grounded in 3 values. People first, always. Healing as a process, not as an event. And quality of life as our true measure of success. This is a hard thing for people to understand who've never been incarcerated. It's one of the things that Al said they couldn't possibly know while they're on the board. It's pretty simple. People go back to prison because their quality of life was better in there. As terrible as it was in there, I had family. I had community. I had people I care about. I had a friend of mine who passed away in there, and the only way he stayed alive for the last year and a half was because we cut his food up. So it was in small enough pieces for him to be able to eat while a softball-sized tumor formed in his throat. There are close bonds in there. It's kind of like bonding during combat in some ways. So people go back a lot of times because the quality of life is better in there than it is out here. And one of the things we do at A Brighter Way is we make sure we address that. We're not just reducing recidivism, we're changing lives. Reentry through relationship is what makes us different. We don't do case management. If you came into my office, you're not a case, you're a person. You don't need to be managed. You need to be worked with. Everybody needs an ally. You guys are a part of a team. You're a part of an organization. You understand that? Some of the things you've done on your own, you'd never have been able to do the things you've done as a group together. And when we started this work, they wouldn't let us talk to each other. Imagine graduating from University of Michigan or working here and never being able to talk to the alumni again. We changed that. So the old model, let me show you what most reentry programs look like. Case management, deficit focus, service provider to client, compliance based. You need to do this in order to do that. You come through my door, I don't even get to know you. This is the formula. It's kind of like a poor and lazy parenting model. This is what you're going to be your first day here. I don't know anything about you. You know? We have to be able to learn about people in order to be able to truly help them. The problem, this model treats people like problems to be managed, boxes to be checked, compliance metrics to be met. And here's what it misses. You can't check a box and call someone healed. You can't mandate connection. You can't compliance your way to transformation. So we chose a radically different approach. Some of it you guys readily employed. Others I had to explain a little bit more. And sometimes I don't know. Let's be clear about that. They were right about one thing. There was a bunch of stuff that I didn't know too. But I don't let current systems decide what can be done. I let current needs decide what needs to be done. And we find ways to do it. Sometimes we bump our heads, sometimes we don't. You can't get into transitional housing. Okay, we got a house. Something that wasn't available to people before. Long-term transitional housing, because in the housing market is one of the places that people who are formerly incarcerated can be legally discriminated against. You've been convicted of a crime? I'm not renting to you. And we just talked about the disproportionate number of people of color who are affected by that. Approximately 14% of the population is Black or African American. Approximately 41% of the prison population in the United States is. So sometimes when people use the felon word, the F word, there's another letter word that they would like to use and they can't, and it allows them to. And I'm saying this as a white male who entered. My reentry was different. My reintegration was different. Our model, we practice peer navigation, not case management. We're strength-based, not deficit-focused. We work partner to partner, not provider to client. And we're relationship-centered, not compliance-based. It works because transformation happens in relationship. When someone who's walked your path says, I see you, I believe in you, and I'm walking with you, that changes everything. Lived experience is expertise. Our navigators aren't social workers with textbooks. Not that there's not a place. They're people with lived experience, authenticity, and a commitment to mutual growth. And the results, they speak for themselves. 97% successful reintegration rate. Our results speak volumes. Most people will engage in multiple services. 75% of our participants need more than one thing. Our staff retention, I officially wanted this to be a grow and go position. Yeah, Johnny can't even keep a straight face with that one because nobody wants to go. Our retention rate is 85%. It would probably be even higher than that, but some have to get pushed out of the nest. It's voluntary participation, and we're serving 10 to 12 voluntary participants every month, new. They come to us because they want to, not because they have to. Even by traditional metrics, the ones that often miss the point, we're succeeding. Imagine what we could do with more support. Our programs in action, our peer navigation is our staple. It's been called a mentor program. You will look at things. We realize that a mentor program does not work well in our space. There's a power dynamic. Like if you walk into our office, it looks different because I don't even want you sitting across the desk from me. I don't want there to be separation. The desks are around the outside of the walls, so there's common area where we all come together. There's nothing that separates you and me. Our peer navigation is the idea that a mentor has this idea that somehow I know better, and so I'm going to help you. It usually has either an age or an experience situation with that, and it puts one in a superior position. Navigation is this. Most of us have probably used Google Maps or Waze or something like that, right? What do? You put your destination into it. Where do I want to go? And then usually you follow the directions, but every once in a while, something throws you off and you take a left. Before you should take a left, does it say, that was stupid? That's not how you get there. If it does, you got the wrong system. It says redirecting. That's why we went to a navigation model, because we're not here to judge you. How you get to your destination is less important than that you do. So we work on that. We had our 21st Century Elder program. We had to put that into place because so many people came out and did not understand technology at all. And I apologized to everybody who came into my office, and I said, well, the Android is very easy to operate when they had an Obama phone. That thing don't operate like an Android phone. I promise you, everything that you do on a regular phone, it had it only had 8 gigs of memory, and it had 56 pages of instructions. So we had to do something for people to be able to understand that. Our social enterprises are loosely based on Homeboy. If you ever look up Homeboy Industries, they are amazing out in California, in LA. We can't possibly do that. I mean, Los Angeles has got the population of the state of Michigan. But we're doing something similar. This idea of dignified work, this idea of being able to work before you fully know how to work. Having that safe space to learn, to make mistakes, to fall down, and still be able to earn a living wage and work on yourself. These programs don't exist in silos. They work together to address the whole person. So, to introduce you to one of the whole people, where'd it go? It's supposed to, there it is. There it is, there. This handsome gentleman is going to come up and share a little bit about his story from member to where he's at today. So come on up, Johnny.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. It's difficult sometimes to follow Adam, but I'll do what I do. Sometimes it's challenging to be in these spaces, especially coming after what I've previously heard. In particular, there are individuals who have been incarcerated wrongly, unfairly, unjustly, and spend extraordinary times of their lives away from their family, friends, in prisons. And then the flip side of that is, then there are those like myself. Before I get too much into that, I'm just give you a brief idea of what manner of young man I had been. I was raised, as previously mentioned, in Northwest Detroit. I was brought up by a good, strong, working class family, raised by both of my parents. I'm not the typical, I didn't have one of my parents. My parents was on drugs, and I didn't labor from that. What I did do, I came from a difficult and stern family. My dad was really rough and tough, and I didn't necessarily take that well. When I was about 10, I experienced an extraordinary loss that, in a way, kind of propelled me in a negative direction. I lost my sister. She was 17, I was 10. She was like my superhero, and she manifested uh, safety and security for me ever since I was born. But I lost her, and I also lost my mind. At that time, I didn't really recognize how much so until she was gone. Now, I'm one of 7, so it's not like I was left by myself. But it impacted me in an extraordinary way. And as a result of the influences of domestic violence and grappling with stress and tension from turmoil and conflicts in my neighborhoods and my family, and in particular, I was a fragile temperament. So some things were very particular and special to me, like the need for having birthday parties. And I didn't have one when I was 13, though I was blessed. Thanks to my Bright Away family, I turned 70 May 31st. But I also had a dual birthday party. I had my 13th birthday celebration and my 70th at the same time. And guess who preoccupied me while the getting got good?
My 13-year-old birthday card to him was so sweet.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. But and as a result of what I thought and what I anticipated that I would get, I didn't. And I went and I sat on the edge of my street, and I was lured like the devil does when he sees vulnerable people. I was lured by people across the street, and sadly, by the day's end, I had a needle in my arm. And that was a segue into a portion of my life that I'm not really proud or happy of. But I also had developed an attitude of indifference and rebellion towards instruction and direction. I had a good mom. Oh, my best friend. I had a good mama. But I didn't listen to her either. And I was challenged so much so that in a matter of 21 years, I had positioned myself so that I was robbing a store owner. I was shot. I had lured my brother to come and participate with me. And we both ended up in jail. Sadly, when you do what you always done, you get what you always got. I went to prison. I didn't go to get a positive mental attitude, get redirection in my life focus, and learn how to do needle and thread and chess. So within a matter of 10 months, I caught another case. By 22, I had 15 or 40 in life bit. And I would sit in solitary confinement and I wonder, how the hell am I going to get out of this? I didn't have any help. But for 10 years, from that day to 10 years, when I lost my mom, because that was my paradigm shift when my mom died, some reckoning came. One, I lost my greatest champion, my greatest supporter. And don't get me wrong, God has blessed me my entire life with people who breathe life as opposed to death, who encouraged me, even when I was totally and completely resistant and refused to accept what they had to offer me. But God. And I asked with a hardened heart, God, I don't know how to live any other way. I drink, I smoke, I get high, I fight with pride, but I don't want to live like this. But the incredible thing for me was I didn't know how to live right. And even the people who God had positioned for me as examples of the proof of the truth, I rejected them. But God does what he does. And he sent people, like I asked God, if I don't know how to do it, so you got to send me somebody. And he did. And I listened. And I had ears to hear. But I was challenged by this. I can't do it like AA suggests, one day at a time. That was too much, too long. My mind is broke, remember? So how do I redirect and one decision at a time? That's what propelled me towards a brighter way. One decision at a time. I decided today I won't smoke. I won't fight today with a weapon. I won't lie. I won't engage in extracurricular activities outside of my primary relationship or my marriage. And slowly, but surely, good things began to happen to me. I got in church and a lot of things manifested. I started going to institutional programs and started volunteering. And eventually what happened for me was I found myself after 46 years before a parole board, which was willing to let me go. And then I was released. But kind of like Adam suggested, can you imagine? I'm just going to ask you real quick, what were you doing 46 years ago?
Well,
And so for me, when I came to prison in 1976, of course there were no cell phones, you know. And so the biggest challenge for me was I had prepared for a world that no longer existed. I had prepared to be engaged in relationships that no longer accepted me for the newness that I had developed in the position that I was in. I wanted not to be a burden to people. Well, what ended up happening was the family that I went to rejected me. So for the first time in my life, for real, I was homeless. I had a good friend who has a connection with the University of Michigan through you guys' social work program. Edward Sanders, he was a good friend of mine. Before we went to prison, we did decades together. He spoke for me at my public hearing, and he also introduced me to a brighter way. I was living in another county, and he suggested that I could find help through a brighter way. He was making reference to transitional housing. What ended up happening through a series of events was that I made a call to a brighter way, and a connection was made. One of the things that I skipped over in passing in my story is I met Adam before I came to a brighter way. I met Adam inside. And I had the opportunity, he encouraged me, and I accepted a position to facilitate a substance abuse program. I was already headed in my right direction. I didn't know that I was headed towards 124 Pearl Street in Ypsilanti, Michigan, but that I was. I came, he offered me an opportunity to come to look at the transitional housing facility that they had. I agreed to come. Shortly thereafter, a part-time position opened up, which I accepted, and incredibly, as he so accurately described, that space is so welcoming and so encouraging. And regardless of what you have befallen you in terms of your case, attitudes, stigmas attached, lack of resources, even your the nature of your crimes, incredibly there is a welcoming when you come to a brighter way. And what it refocuses your attention on is who you can be and what you could be, as opposed to what you've done and how challenging it is to tolerate you in the position that you've been released into. For me, I've had an opportunity through a brighter way to learn 5 particular things. They cared enough for me to give me a chance and show me the value of relationship, which you heard Adam make mention of reentry through relationships. That's essential. One of the things that I was broken with was managing relationships. I didn't know really how to do that. And if you guys have any suggestions, you can send me. Secondarily, they provided transitional housing, safe and affordable transitional housing. Also, they helped me value the significance of my lived experience. Some people hear 46 years and 11 days, and they, but if you said you had worked on your degree for 46 years and 11 days, like, then the response would be considerably different. Also, too, and most importantly, they help me from isolation to connection. It's essential in a brighter way to be connected, not only connected with self, connected with our staff, with our navigators, but with our community and with our families, and have a healthy expectation of the results of maintaining those relationships. A lot of us don't know how to do it, so I come to work every day with a plate and a fork and a spoon and a napkin, and I look to get fed. And generally, as a general rule, I do. Reentry through relationship. In closing, I want to say, don't miss these special people in your life who have a way of touching you and directing you with a particular purpose. Don't underappreciate the value of relationships. And I want to suggest that everybody in here at least speak to one person that you didn't know before you came. Essential. God bless you. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate you for being here.
So I'm going to do something I don't usually do. I'm not going to go off script as much. I'm going to read some of my notes so that we can get to the Q&A part of this. But I want you to think about that. Johnny's story isn't that unique. It seems like it, and it does a disservice in this space sometimes if you look at Johnny or myself and think this is exceptional. Exceptionalism is what robs from a lot of the work that we need to do. This is possible with more people. It's the story of every person who's been given a real chance, authentic support, and the community that believes in them. Every day we choose right. Remember that? Right or left, forward or backward? We choose right, we choose forward, and lives change. The ripple effect is, here's what people miss. Every person we serve impacts families. Every success strengthens communities. Every relationship breaks down stigma. When we help one person stabilize, we're helping their children, their parents, their neighbors. We're interrupting cycles of trauma and incarceration. And when communities see returning citizens as partners, not problems, when they witness transformation, it changes the narrative for everyone. This isn't just reentry work. It's community building. It's healing. It's real justice. So growing our impact. One of the things we've been working on is we're working on the direct housing. We're not standing still. We're growing direct housing projects, providing trauma-informed training for law enforcement and agencies, expanding social enterprise opportunities. We believe it's a replicable model. Our model works, and it's replicable. Imagine this approach in every county, in every state. Sustainability. We're building sustainable revenue through social enterprise, reducing dependence on grants, and creating long-term stability. The ask, but we can't do it alone. We need partners. We need advocates. And we need investors who believe in this vision. Why it matters. I told you we're 97, 95, depending on which. I like to say the 95 simply because of the fact that somebody might dissect that 97 and want to pick it apart. So I'll give you 2 points. The cost, recidivism costs taxpayers $15 billion annually. That's money we're spending on failure instead of investing in a success. So I don't want to hear when the state budget comes up this year and they cut every dollar for reentry outside of the Michigan Department of Corrections. We didn't have money for that because it's getting spent elsewhere. It's an opportunity cost. It's not magic money. Our model works, like I said, and it's replicable. We've proven that peer-based, relationship-centered reentry transform lives. And the urgency is the question isn't whether we can afford to invest in this work. It's whether we can afford not to. So, as I said, corny, lend your light to a brighter way. We're asking you to lend your light. How to engage? Visit abrighterway.org and learn more about our work. Support us financially, yes, but also with your voice, your network, your advocacy, your experience. See returning citizens as partners, not problems. That shift in perspective changes everything. Share our story. Help us change the narrative. Together we can create a Michigan where every returning citizen
Take it. That's right. That's right. Take your time.
has a real shot
That's right.
at a life of purpose, stability, and connection. Thank you.
Questions? I guess I have one quick one. Do you go out in the community and talk to the younger folks to try to prevent them from happening into the future? You know what I'm saying?
I'll take this one. We do, but we've found that a lot of times it does, just like Johnny talked about, not really paying much attention to the elders. They don't really pay a lot of attention to us too. Our main focus is with working with people who've, a lot of times you get these discussions about whether you should spend money on prevention or you should spend it on, policing or all of the above. We have a generational component. If I work on the parents can work on the kids. They have more time with them. If we come out with cool videos like that, they'll listen to that. They ain't gonna listen to me. They don't even know I'm in the video. You know? If they did, it probably wouldn't be as cool. So we don't do a lot directly other than we go out into the community on a regular basis, and you can guarantee that we engage kids, because one of the most disturbing things about being incarcerated forever is if you don't have your own kids, you get no interaction with kids. I spent 27 years in prison and never got to talk to a child until I came home. So I have no kids, which means I have all of them. So I think that answered it.
So we've heard Johnny's amazing story, but Adam, why did you rob the bank?
The way the old gangster said, because that's where the money was. When people hear that I robbed a bank, they look at me now and they think that I must have been one of them gentleman robbers. No. I earned my way to prison. I did my first armed robbery at the age of 12. It wasn't on purpose. I didn't intend to rob him. It was a high school kid. And he got to saying something slick, scared me, and I had a gun, and I pulled it out, and all of a sudden he started doing what I said. So, empty your pockets. And it started me down that path. Like Johnny said, sometimes if you're not being encouraged, you're being discouraged. And when you feel that you're excrement, you'll find your way to the toilet. And I always felt I was born to a 15-year-old mother. I knew I was loved, but I didn't think I was worthy of it. So I tried to prove people wrong who actually cared about me. You don't know. Potential was a dirty word for me growing up, because it always was leveled at me when I wasn't living up to it. So I robbed a bank because it made sense. I was on a run. I knew I was going back to prison anyway. I might as well have some money in my pocket before. That was the thought.
Where?
Right in front.
Right in the front? Okay.
So when you're in prison for 47 years, how do you come back to your family?
Very carefully.
And does Brighter Way do things to support the family as you are reintegrating?
That is an excellent question. through relationships, modeling relationships. So it starts from top down. Adam leads by example. He doesn't just say a thing and expect us to do something different. He models. He's an excellent friend. He's an excellent administrator. He's an excellent boss. He's an excellent husband, excellent friend.
Are you up for a pay raise anytime soon?
But I mentioned this earlier as well. It's when you don't know what you don't know until you've given something to compare it to. So one of my problems when I came home is I had anticipated all these great things. I lost one of my siblings while I was gone, and both my parents, all my grandparents, and all of my older aunts and uncles, 2 generations of people gone. But what I came back to, I had anticipated. I had all of these plans. You know, I cook very well, so I wanted to cook for them. I wanted to share in relationships. My nieces and nephews that now had children, I wanted to get to know them. But nobody was understanding the purpose for me wanting to know them like that. You know, like, that ain't what we do. You don't smoke no more, you don't drink no more, you don't get high, he's a jolly good fellow, do that over there. Because I became uncomfortable for them. So now I'm feeling like, in a way, I'm misstepping. But the blessing, one of the additional blessings to come to A Brighter Way for transitional housing was to learn about relationship and see, and then learning the impact of trauma, and then becoming trauma informed and understanding that a lot of the things that I had thought were necessarily wrong with me, I was correct, but then there's a way and a means to get aid and assistance. And now I was willing, I wasn't resistant. And real briefly, while I have your attention, there was a gentleman that was on the wrongful conviction list. He was number 22. His name was is Eric Anderson, and he did 9 years. Eric was my mentor at A Brighter Way when I first came.
Yeah, one other thing about his transitional housing. One of the first things that happened when he came to the transitional housing is we had him and Daryl host ABW's Christmas party. So you can't always mend family relationships because you grow in different areas.
That's right.
But what you can do is you can always choose to be family to others, and that's one of the things that we try to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, good point.
Thank you for sharing your stories. It sounds like A Brighter Way is a really unique and innovative organization. Are there other organizations that are trying to replicate what you're doing? Do you get inquiries of, creating similar organizations elsewhere and that kind of thing?
Yeah, good.
I'm going to stand up for this one because people will say yes, and I'll say no because I'm going to show you something that's different. Can I get a hug? Nobody out there is doing that. Some of the things that we don't sign contracts for are for that very reason, because sometimes that's the only thing that'll save somebody's life. When we did that video, I think it was the same year, maybe it was the year before, we had somebody come in here who'd been formerly incarcerated, who had transitioned to female, who has tether on their leg, the whole 9, and they were ready to end it. I mean, ready to end it. We had 3 breakout sessions, and she was in all 3 of them. And the community rallied around her and hugged her and loved on her. We can't shake her now. She's in the office like every other day. Can I get a hug? Yes, you can get a hug. So, do people do it? Yes. Do they do it the way that we do it? No. And is it innovative? I don't think so. I think it's human. And when we've come to the point where being human and sharing that with each other is innovation, we need to look at the systems that we're investing billions of dollars in. Al will say it all the time. We are much cheaper and we do a better job. But we didn't get a dime out of the budget this year. Out of a $2.2 billion corrections budget. That's not counting MDHHS and all these other things, not a dime, not a plug nickel.
I know we're near the end. I do want to make a comment about the economics of this. When a person goes back, it costs $50,000 or $60,000 a year, and the average term, 5 years, $250,000, $300,000. Brighter Way costs $5,000 to $10,000 once. If you take the difference between our recidivism, our success rate, and the state's success rate, if you had organizations like A Brighter Way, you would save over $1 billion a year in the state of Michigan. And the system's just wrong. And you could take some of that $1 billion a year and do something about drugs and poverty and education. The system from an economic standpoint is just wrong.
Can I add one thing to that? One short thing. And that is, a lot of these organizations, we're blessed in the fact that Washtenaw County is pretty resource rich and people have helped us to get to where we're getting to. But there is a huge part of the work that we do that gets funded out of our pockets on a regular basis. So even other places that do this kind of work that don't get funding, they don't have the money. They're working full-time jobs and they're starting organizations and do it. I've got money. Don't tell anybody my license plate number. I got money in my visor all the time for people that need to it. I'm known for giving my coat away on a cold day because I know I'm getting back into my car. You know, it shouldn't have to be that way, but it is.
One final question.
So I told you guys we had to be done. So I'm going to set you up. First, in addition to financial support, what else do you need? I know that Al and I have talked about bringing clothes in, those kinds of things. What else besides money? And we should all give money, take A Brighter Way. What else do you need?
So from the board chair point of view, we have two significant issues. One is capacity. You got to realize that every employee has been previously incarcerated. They haven't been out there running businesses. We need volunteers with skills that could help. We actually need somebody that could help us figure out how to use volunteers. And funding. At the last minute of this current state budget, they cut $500,000 for A Brighter Way. We're not development experts. What I'm hoping will happen is some of you will agree to sit in a room with us for an hour or two and give us advice about what we might be able to do, because that's not our expertise. So I hope that happens.
To the point of relationship building, one of the things that I would hope that you will be willing to do is, one, come and visit us at 124 Pearl Street. Get to meet some of our members and engage with us and talk to our members directly and ask them what could they need, what could they use. Because briefly, one of the questions that my parole agent asked me before I came home was, what would I tell my 13-year-old self? And I said that I wouldn't tell him anything. I would listen to him. So I'm asking you to come and listen and see and do. Because some might just need you to be. And don't ever think that you don't have enough because I did so much time. Don't be afraid of the time. Don't be and I'm not asking you to be ignorant either. But what I'm asking you to do is share in the humanity of this community. And in the relationships that we build and establish, we all win.
The last thing, mine is really short and simple. Get me into a room. I'm serious. If you think there's a room that needs to hear it, put me there. Because a lot of people don't share their story because it's traumatic and because there's a stigma. I got a story and I'm going to share it. You know, we have a really informal way of doing business around a brighter way. And we had a member that was coming in on a regular basis, and one day a week, she needed somebody to watch her son. And her son was 11 years old. And it's like, okay, so what are you going to do with him? He's going to learn what it is to be executive director of an organization. I brought him to everything that I did. And the one thing that he said, a little smart, anyway, he said, all you do is talk for a living. And I said, let's get this straight. I said, you talk a lot too, but don't nobody pay you. I do it well. So get me into a room.
Thank you very much for sharing your stories today.